It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right on this most wonderful of days, Friday. Friday. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll be in the area all day. And Boomer's on the board. Hey, buddy. How you doing?
I'm good.
You are good.
I'm good. It's Friday, so I'm great.
And you're even gooder because you had your little bitty girl in here with you all day.
I did. She was just hanging out with
hanging out with Daddy.
Dad. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, good deal. We got wow. Like, how are we going to get all this done? Boomer, if I can get 3 dippers done today.
I'm going to be very impressed. You have a lot on the platter.
Does it count if I only do 5 minutes and call it a dipper?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you did it. You're just going to ease it in there. Remember, little dipper, mini dipper.
That's not even mini dipper. That's like a sampler.
Sampler.
That's an hors d'oeuvre dipper. All right, so hey, here's the deal. 3 p.m. today, former Congressman Mo Brooks is going to be on with us. He's got some opinions about what's happening with the Trump indictments over in Georgia and the latest movements right now by members of the Georgia State Legislature to actually, hold a special session and see about dealing with this Fannie Willis, who's the district attorney in Fulton County. Anyway, we're going to talk with former Congressman Mo Brooks at 3 p.m. today. And then at 3:30, my favorite segment of the week is here, Boomer and McQueen. One day off the usual schedule. But yeah, Boomer and McQueen, 3:30. We'll enjoy that time together. And then 4 p.m., as always, our friend Stephanie Smith, president of the Alabama Policy Institute, she will be with us here at 4 o'clock talking about some of the latest trends in public policy in Alabama, one of which is, of course, gambling is rearing its ugly head again. And it's nuts the way that all works out. So, yeah, 3 p.m., Congressman Mo Brooks, 3:30, Boomer and McQueen, 4 o'clock, Stephanie Smith, and then there's a triple dipper. Hit it.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. So number 1, I'm calling it Fighting Back. I get a lot of feedback from you guys, and I hear folks say it elsewhere, that they're ready for Republicans to friggin' do something, like just do something, like impeach somebody. We're going to talk about that. What does that even mean? How does that work? Can we just do it? Should we just do it? Fighting Back. That's number 1 on the Triple Dipper. Number 2, I love the title for it. I'm calling number 2 Magic Bus. Magic Bus. It's funny to me how our tax dollars get used. Yeah, it's an amazing thing when you watch the market be manipulated by government. And what we got right now is a situation where school systems all over the nation are receiving free electric school buses. Oh, yeah. On the double Dutch bus. But we've got electric school buses going in, even here in Alabama. And yet we're already hearing about problems in other places. And they're all being paid for with grants from the things like the Infrastructure Reduction Act, or what do they call it? The Inflation Reduction Act. Anyway, all said and done, number 2 on the Triple Dipper, Magic Bus. We'll talk about it. And then number 3, in conjunction with that conversation with Stephanie Smith at API, rolling the dice. We're going to talk about gambling in Alabama, the history of it, the fairly negative history of it, the amount of lawbreakers that are out there wanting to be considered legal and good folks, and with the legislature, what are they doing? We'll see. Rolling the dice, that's number 3 on the Triple Dipper. All right, let me jump to my comments, and I will remind you guys that our sponsor of the Right Side Way monologue every single day is Southern Immediate Care. Southern Immediate Care, a chain of clinics all over North Alabama, places like Gadsden, Atala, Anniston, 5 locations around the Birmingham area. Listen, Southern Immediate Care, that's who I use, and we are glad to have them as a sponsor for the show, especially for the Right Side Way monologue every day. All right, here's the deal. I don't know if you caught it, but there was a jury verdict that didn't get a lot of attention. A jury verdict in Minneapolis last week. So a former police officer by the name of Tao Thao, he's got a Filipino or Oriental background, but Tao Thao, a police officer in Minneapolis, was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 4 years and 9 months in prison. His crime? His crime was that he was on the scene when George Floyd died at the hands of another officer, and Officer Thao was seen on video holding back the crowd. Holding back the crowd. Trying to maintain control of a bad situation, and he will now spend nearly 5 years behind bars because he didn't intercede, apparently. You remember the months after George Floyd's death as the claims of injustice boiled over into race riots and BLM protests and calls to defund police forces everywhere? The death of one man became a call to burn down America because allegedly, we're a racist nation. Well, race baiters and charlatans got rich on corporate virtue signaling after that. Here in Alabama, you may have seen a story that made national news just last week or so as drunks and ne'er-do-wells got into a brawl on the docks in Montgomery. The press was so overdue for a racial incident that it quickly became an inflated race riot. Not really. It was just drunks and ne'er-do-wells being drunks and ne'er-do-wells. I mean, never mind that no one has even been charged with a race-based crime. Liberal Mayor Stephen Reed of Montgomery decided to call it what he thinks it is. Not necessarily legally racist in nature, but he could feel in his heart that it was. Sure, race baiter. You may also remember a couple of years ago when a Georgia jury came back with their verdict in the Ahmaud Arbery murder trial. It was a solid and damning batch of verdicts, finding each one of the 3 defendants guilty on nearly all the counts. But race was not even part of the prosecution, at least not formally. But it was certainly a factor on the steps of the courthouse. Every race activist in the nation showed up. And you gotta know they really wanted to see them acquitted because what they wanted to do was claim an injustice. But I'll be honest, there were some of them I know hoping for a verdict of acquittal because that's how they make their living. They're race baiters, by profiting off the bruised and battered sentiments of racial conflict. But a jury of 12, which was 11 white jurors and 1 black juror, reached unanimous verdicts of guilty in a deep South state, literally trashing the narrative that these racial pirates have glommed onto for decades. And in the midst of the post-verdict speeches, at the front door of the State House, there was one speech from one man that made all the difference in that case, in my opinion. It was Ahmaud Arbery, the victim, the deceased. It was Ahmaud Arbery's father, the man who had lost his son. He celebrated the fact that justice was met for his son, and then he celebrated the fact that racism did not rear its ugly head and deny them a verdict. And then he went there. He uttered the words. He uttered the words that those purveyors of division demand that we never be allowed to say. The black man, whose son was murdered by 3 white men, looked aside from race altogether and said, "All lives matter." And he was right. He was absolutely right. He was spot on. Don't let anyone ever tell you again, by the way, that the South is systemically racist. Don't let anybody rob you of your own lack of bias. Don't let anyone tell you how you were born or where you live or what you believe has somehow predisposed you to a hopelessness that you cannot get away from. Because the race-baiting liars, they're just that. They're liars. I was reminded not long ago of the most amazing modern-day story of goodness and racelessness. Yes, by the way, I just coined a new word for you to use in your Scrabble, racelessness. You may have heard the story I'm about to tell, and if you haven't, just go ahead and grab a tissue because it's a heartwarmer. It's a tearjerker. You see, there's a sweet grandma named Wanda Dench. She lives in Mesa, Arizona. She texted her grandson about 7 years ago to have him come over to the house for Thanksgiving, or at least she thought she did. What she actually had done, though, was texted another young man named Jamal Hinton, whom she'd never met. And Jamal Hinton got the text and he responded back. He said, "You're not my grandma. Can I still have a plate, though?" And she responded back, "Of course. That's what grandmas are for." So he did. And they had a wonderful, wonderful time. And by now, you may have interpreted the underlying story based on my earlier comments because you guessed it, Jamal's a black kid and Wanda Dench and her husband Lonnie are white. And the race baiters, they would have said they don't belong together, but apparently they do, because they have celebrated Thanksgiving together now for the past 7 years. Jamal Hinton told Time magazine that each year the Thanksgiving dinner serves as a time to catch up on each other's lives and events. He said they rarely watch TV. Instead, they just spend hours talking and laughing. Time kind of flies, he said. We don't even realize how long we've been there. They're really good company. You see, that's the real America. Does racism exist? Yes, certainly. But we are not a systemically racist nation. We are a nation where race baiters and race profiteers on both sides of a racist divide are given far more credit than they're ever due. All the rest of us, and that's the vast majority of the nation, by the way, are guilty just of giving them a voice, of allowing them too much time in the public square. And I, for one, am tired of it. I, for one, am willing to use this platform that God's given me to point out that I believe that we are far more than what some loudmouth dividers of our people would have the world to believe. Racial stereotypes and prejudices have no place in a free and contemporary society like ours. I know that we've been there. I know that there have been movements that had to take place to effect positive change, some during my own lifetime. But no nation, no people, if you will, has done more in the history of the world to eliminate racial injustice in our own country and around the world. We have, in fact, made the world a better place in that regard. It's about value. It's the idea that every human being has worth, and that's not just me. That's in our nation's founding documents. It's in our multitude of judicial verdicts. It's in the vast amount of legislatively created statutory law. And I also believe, as a Christian, that it's scriptural. Think about it. In John 3:16, we're told God so loved the world, the whole world, that he gave his only son. It doesn't say for God so loved some people based on the way they look. In fact, we're told elsewhere in the Bible in 1 Samuel 16:7 that God does not even look at the outward appearance of any of us. Go check it out. It's there. All said and done, I believe the example of Jamal Hinton and Wanda Dench, their kind of Thanksgiving gathering, is more indicative of who we are as a people, really. The kind of example that openly and unabashedly says that all lives matter, because they do. They all do. And that's a wrap for the Rightside Way. Well, there you have it. It's a great story, too, by the way. Wanda Dench texting her grandson, accidentally texted another young man. This young black kid winds up having 7 years of Thanksgiving with a white family, and they love each other. It's just cool. But all these folks that get out there and, like the mayor of Montgomery, well, it may not be racist legally, but I know in my heart. What a ridiculously lack of leadership kind of thing to say. We are not a systemically racist nation. We are a nation that has led the charge on getting rid of racism. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Yeah, making it cool to be a conservative. So, by the way, I got to make an announcement. So, in case you have not already heard, many of you have heard, but in case you haven't heard, this coming Wednesday, we'll be having a watch party for the Republican primary debate. So, yeah, it's going to be myself, Dale Jackson, Yaffe. We're going to be at Terry's Pizza having a panel discussion. Terry's, what a cool thing. Terry's Pizza. That place has been there, I mean, like my whole life, it feels like. But love me some Terry's Pizza. Love me some politics. Going to be with my buddies Dale Jackson and Yaffe. So, yeah, y'all come out that night. We'll have a big doings going on. And Mecca Music is going to be the MC for it all. And I'm looking forward to it. So we'll see you guys in Huntsville on Wednesday evening after the show. There is that. Text lines are open. It's 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. I got a few of them already. Let me see what we got over here. Mark from Tony says, where are we at? Mark from Tony, I wanted to ask you, Phil, if he thinks he supports a president that's for abortion on demand can make it to heaven. First of all, I believe that salvation comes through knowing Jesus Christ as your personal Savior. I am not one who believes you can lose your salvation if you have accepted Christ truly. I believe you can also sin even still as a Christian. So I guess I would say if you're for abortion on demand, but you do know Jesus Christ is your Savior, you need to get right with the Lord, but it does not mean you're not going to heaven. It's just one of those things that you've chosen to have a thing in your life that is, in my opinion, an impediment, and we are going to be held to account. I mean, even those who know the Lord are going to be asked what we did with it when we get there. So anyway, all said and done, Mark from Tony, interesting question, but there you have it. Richard from Madison, stories like the one about Jamal and Wanda are not sexy in the eyes of the media. I didn't know where we were going here for a minute. All right, not sexy in the eyes of the media, which is why they promote the racist USA. I triple dog dare the media to find more stories like Jamal and Wanda. They would explode. I tell you what, too, great video this morning. I actually just watched it, I think during lunch. But Larry Elder from California, radio guy, ran for governor out there. Larry Elder, who is, a very conservative individual, a black guy. He went on Charlemagne the God's radio show maybe this morning or yesterday. And, both of them, two black guys, one liberal and one conservative. And, I mean, it was interesting, man. It was so interesting. And he got all over Charlemagne for letting Joe Biden get away with saying, if you ain't voting for me, you ain't black. And he said, well, I mean, it's not like I let him really. And he said, no, you should have confronted him at the time. You should have demanded an apology. You should have said how insulting that you would assume that because of the color of my skin that I will act or do a certain way or think a certain way. And so it was a great discussion. Go out there and find it on social media. Larry Elder, Charlemagne the God. I mean, it was a dynamic conversation, and Larry Elder stood him up pretty hard. Kimball from Harvest says, Phil, I agree that this is not an inherently racist nation. I love the story of Jamal and Wanda. All lives do matter. When I was a kid, in recent years past, the term racist was a serious accusation. It's been worn out by overuse these days. Kimball, great text, man. John from Huntsville says, Phil, nice monologue. Looking forward to Boomer and McQueen, even though it's supposed to be on Thursdays, not Fridays. John from Huntsville is apparently a creature of habit.
Yes. And I get it.
Flexibility, man.
Should be Thursday. Come on, McQueen.
And I'm going to go ahead and step in there and say, yesterday you got a B, and I did not agree with your grade.
Oh, thank you.
I did not. Not at all. Anyway, there you have it. Bam. And John also says, is it true you're going to be a part of Dale and Yaffe's debate watch event at Terry's Pizza? Yes, I am. I am indeed. Brian from Huntsville says, between you and Mo, if the Don gets convicted on anything, how long before an appeal can be recognized in a different venue? Well, they can't change the venue for an appeal. Now, it can go up through the appeals process if it's federal, certainly. Now, if right now this is a state court thing, it's currently in state court. So the appeal process there would be the appellate courts of the state of Georgia, if it stays where it is. So you would go to, and I don't know what they call it over there. I don't recall. In Alabama, we have the circuit courts, and then we go to the Court of Civil Appeals or the Court of Criminal Appeals, and you also have the option then thereafter to the state Supreme Court. If it's federal, same thing. Goes to the 11th Circuit in Georgia, after which it goes to the Supreme Court of the United States. We'll see what happens. Lastly, before we go, John C. from Madison. Years ago, Terry Pizza used to have a Rush Limbaugh room when they had a location on Governor's Drive. Cool. All right, folks. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation, Alabama. And I'm talking about this show. Man, we send our signal like way down south of Birmingham and up north of Huntsville, Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. Hey, I got it. So here's the deal. Number one, out the gate. Fighting back. That's the first dipper, all right? And that we'll kind of conclude that dipper with our conversation with former Congressman Mo Brooks here in about 30 minutes. But all right, true story. I kid you not. True story. When I was in the state Senate during the time frame in which former Governor Robert Bentley had his personal crises, and it was a shame to watch him go down in flames like that. But one of the most interesting things about the whole deal was the state of Alabama had no means by which to conduct an impeachment. What do you mean, Phil? I mean, we didn't have any rules. There was no guidebook. It had never been done before. It had almost happened, I believe, in the 1800s, and then for whatever reason it didn't. And so I was on the Senate floor one day, and I walked up to who was our pro tem of the Senate at the time, Del Marsh, and I said, "Hey, Del," and I told him same thing. I said, "Man, we got no rules." He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Del, there is no playbook for this. It's never been done." He looked at me and he goes, "Well, you're a lawyer. I just gave it to you. You're going to figure out how this works." I said, well, okay. So literally, what wound up happening was I got appointed to chair a bipartisan committee, and I selected the others on it. It was myself. I'm trying to think who was the other Republican. I think it was Greg Albritton, who is now a budget chairman, and Bobby Singleton, who's a Democrat, and then also Hank Sanders, who is no longer in the Senate, but another member of the Democrat Party. So 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and we met together for once a week for the next, I want to say 5 or 6 weeks. And we took lessons from other states. How do you do this? How did they do it in Chicago? I mean, a heck of a thing to be looking at Illinois and trying to figure out how to do business. But what we needed was some kind of precedent to say, when this happens, if it happens with Governor Bentley, what do we do? And I mean, like literally down to the procedural aspects of what we do, because the last thing you want to do is create the image that we have no clue what we're doing. I mean, we didn't, but you know what I'm saying. And so, yeah, we came out with it. And so now, and then I went up on the floor of the Senate and presented the findings of this special commission that I had chaired. And it was from soup to nuts. If indeed the House were to make findings and refer those to the Senate would then conduct its business this way, and it would do so on a certain day, and there would be a proclamation of the governor on this day, and then there would be rules, and here's who would preside, and we'd have to bring in someone from the outside. Anyway, we laid it all out. As a lawyer, I can just tell you, we have the Alabama Rules of Civil Procedure. If I go to state court, I pull down the book of civil procedure rules, and I know what I can and cannot do. Same is true in federal court. You have the federal rules of civil procedure. You have the same thing for criminal procedure. Everybody knows what the rules are. We didn't know what the rules were. It was new territory. So now embedded in the state record is this document that I drafted after meeting with my cohorts, and we put together a plan. I say all that to say, what we're seeing right now is, this constant call, and I get it, man. I'm with you. Let's impeach somebody. Republicans should be fighting back. Why aren't we fighting back? Well, first of all, I believe we are. I believe that there are certain things that should be taken very seriously, and I do not ever want to see anything like what I saw with the January 6th Commission, which could care less about cross-examination of witnesses and actually, I saw the other day, Tucker Carlson interviewed the guy that used to be the chief of the Capitol Police. The chief of the friggin' Capitol Police was never interviewed at all by the January 6th Commission. Why? Because he didn't fit their narrative. All that to say, I don't want Republicans to ever be in the position of rushing in to do something with an agenda without the evidence. I get it if you have an agenda and the evidence matches. That's fine. Don't ever let yourself get in the position of having a kangaroo court in which you've got an agenda that drove you there, but you didn't go there with the evidence to back it up. That's crap politics. That's when you're looking like a banana republic. That's some of the things we're seeing, like with Alvin Bragg and his New York, jackleg operation to indict Trump. That's what we're seeing in Georgia, where they're creating novel new theories of law and applying them. So that being said, I do believe that impeachment certainly has its place, and there's some things that I'd love to see done. The one or two people that I know for a fact need to be impeached, one of which is Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Mayorkas is our Secretary of Homeland Security, and our border is falling apart right now under his watch. But here's the way it works. The House and the Senate both have to be together. The House has to, in essence, the House of Representatives or Congress will act as a sort of a grand jury. They will convene, they will take witness testimony, they will look at the evidence, and then they will decide by vote if they see enough to warrant referring it then to the Senate. The Senate then becomes the trial. So the Senate then becomes a trial on the evidence handed to them by the members of the House. You can refer articles of impeachment from a House and get nothing out of the Senate. And that's happened before. When you do that, then you know what you've got is just a situation where you just want the indictment so you can make them look bad. Because you know you can't finish up with the trial because the Senate won't take it up. That's why you need both. Folks who are calling for impeachment right now need to realize Schumer still has the chair in the Senate. And McConnell's not going to do anything. So we need both to really get truly effective impeachment processes in place. All right, that being said, fighting back, I'm for it, man. It doesn't mean you don't hold hearings. It doesn't mean you don't bring out the evidence. And it doesn't mean, by the way, you don't refer those articles of impeachment even if you don't have a Senate, because you may have something that's so egregious that you have to take that stand. Just make sure you got the evidence to go with it. I mean, I'll just never forget that whole process that I went through regarding Governor Bentley. And it weighed on me. It weighed on me, man. It weighed on me hard because I realized the import of what I was putting together. I now have my signature on what it would take to impeach an official in the state of Alabama. And it should never be taken lightly. But the one right now, and I've got an article here from Roll Call, the one right now that I think as we're fighting back, as we finally have at least the ability to exercise subpoena power and hold hearings of our own in the House of Representatives, the one that right now that I'm looking at when I'm saying fighting back is Mayorkas. My God, could we please? House Republicans, according to rollcall.com, this came out a few weeks ago, House Republicans accused Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas of mismanaging the U.S.-Mexico border, misrepresenting migration levels, and generally just barely stopped short of explicitly calling for his impeachment during the committee hearings. The Republican attacks came during a House Judiciary Committee hearing on the oversight of the Department of Homeland Security. And House Republicans, though, have been building a potential impeachment case. By the way, they're very open about it. It's not like it's a secret. They've already told him you might want to just, start taking your personal effects and put them in boxes because we're coming. Colorado Republican Representative Ken Buck told Mayorkas his constituents see him as a traitor and blamed him for all the fentanyl poisoning deaths going on. Representative Andy Biggs, who chairs the Freedom Caucus from Arizona, has filed one of the impeachment resolutions against Mayorkas, grilled him about whether he and Joe Biden were responsible for guidance instructing immigration agents to prioritize arresting immigrants. And then when Mayorkas would refuse to answer, called it disgusting. Representative Mike Johnson of Louisiana said Mayorkas is the most dishonest person who's ever appeared before judiciary. Representative Ben Cline came close to threatening impeachment, just didn't use the actual word. He told him, you should be ashamed, and more so, you should be held accountable, and this committee will do just that. New Jersey Republican Jeff Van Drew, he used the word. He specifically called for the secretary to be impeached during the proceedings. And he urged Mayorkas to go ahead and resign. If you won't resign, you leave us with no other option. You should be impeached. The problem they got is they don't have the Senate yet. The problem they got, as we're fighting back, is that right now you've got the great opportunity to make your case, to show the evidence to the world, to use subpoena power as you can. But you still got to know that you got to get it done, and you got to get it done through the House and the Senate. Last one before we move on to the second half of that topic, though, is the other person who drives me crazy besides Joe Biden. But by the way, I am not discounting the fact that Joe Biden is probably the most corrupt president we've ever had. And I say that knowing that we've had some corrupt presidents. But when have you ever seen somebody taking, they just found out, by the way, okay, I'm chasing a rabbit for a second. I don't know if you saw this, Boomer. They just found out, story broke last night. Representative James Comer, who heads up the Oversight Committee, just found out last night that President Biden, while he was vice president, was using a fake email address to communicate back and forth to Hunter Biden. Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. That's so he was like, I think he used the name Robert Peters to email back and forth with his son. Pray tell, why would you do that? Oh, maybe because you're trying to hide things. And then on top of that, they also appear to have banking records that indicate, along with text messages that corroborate, that Biden may have had direct access to Hunter's bank accounts, which is how he could get access to funds without having to put them in his own bank account. So when you have your own debit card off your son's account and your son gets paid $5 million and you need a little something for the weekend at Rehoboth Beach, you just use that debit card instead. And
Interesting. So just
that's okay. He's just the vice president of the United States.
yeah,
No big
it's
deal.
fine.
No big deal.
Wow.
Yeah. Fighting back. That's where we are right now. We're taking a break. We'll come right back from this. I'll just tell you, man, I'm saying let's get her done. I'm also saying let's get all the ducks in a row. So those of y'all that are calling for it yesterday, just realize you got to build the case before you can try it. We're getting there. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. I just had a text a minute ago. Who was that? That was Brandy from Athens. Just texted in. She's apparently watching the live stream video. She goes, Phil, sometimes your facial expressions say even more than your words. That's probably true. Tony from Piedmont says, file all the impeachment charges, all that Marjorie Taylor Greene said. The cases are already made. Trump was impeached twice for nothing. I don't disagree with you, brother. I just don't want to be like them. I don't want to be like them where it looks like a total sham. There ain't nothing to it. Got no evidence, but we're going to do it anyway. Nancy Pelosi blazing forward because she just can. I don't want to be that. I don't want us to be them. But there is a lot of stuff out there right now that needs to get dealt with, and we are fighting back. And I just believe that we're building cases. And, here's the thing. Some of these, so I mentioned a minute ago, Mayorkas, in my opinion, is the most derelict individual to ever hold a cabinet level position. I mean, what a vacuous nothing. All right. That like the guy's an empty suit. I'm not sure how he ever earned the position. And I'm really not sure, by the way, how it is possible that he is not being held accountable. How does he possibly, with a straight face, come here and say, the border is secure? You lying turd biscuit. I mean, that is not, that, did I just say that? That's not a red button issue, I guess.
Nah, that's fine.
But anyway, all right, get yourself under control, Phil. Here's the other one. David from Huntsville just texted me and said, who's the other one? Who's the other one? Granholm. The other one that I think is really just failed miserably at her job is Secretary Jennifer Granholm, the Department of Energy. I mean, think about it. What has happened in the energy sector since she took over? Well, we've got places where the grid has been strained, Texas. We've got issues related to the Strategic Petroleum Reserve being depleted. Gas prices have gone through the roof. We're no longer energy independent. Now, she's happy with this. Let's be honest. She's happy with this. She doesn't want us to be energy independent because that means we're drilling for oil. She doesn't want fossil fuels. But we have seen a hit on the economy that has had second and third order effects on her watch, all related to the Department of Energy. And then the ongoing battle right now is, like I'm going to have this whole section. The next one of the dippers that we're going to get to today, we hope, is Magic Bus. Electric school buses. Awesome. Wow, cool. I believe that we're going to have electric everything one day. Really? How are you going to make that electricity? Well, we're going to plug it in. Well, where's the money? Where's the energy come from to plug it in? Well, it'll be great. We'll make more. Okay, how are you going to do that? Because you won't have coal-fired plants. You won't approve nuclear. You don't want to drill for anything. So what you going to do? I guess we'll just buy more gas from Russia. Awesome. Secretary Granholm, in my opinion, is the other one that needs to go. Now, we got a situation. Speaking of impeachment, let me just lay the foundation for this conversation we're going to have with Mo Brooks here in a few minutes. So former Congressman Mo Brooks, an attorney himself, well-versed in the law, he is not a fan of Donald Trump. They had that falling out. He's not a fan of Donald Trump, and I understand his sentiments on that. I don't share them. I just say I understand where he's coming from because they had their falling out. That being said, he's making, no bones about how he feels about this indictment in Georgia. He's on the record right now as saying that this District Attorney Fani Willis, Mo Brooks, says she is downright dangerous and evil. He is of the belief that the potential is there to actually impeach her. There's a Georgia state senator who's making waves right now by having issued an open letter to Governor Brian Kemp calling for him to engage the legislature and call them in for a special session for the sole purpose of examining the actions of DA Fani Willis to determine whether or not she abused her authority or in some way acted egregiously in such a way that she should be impeached herself. I think that's a stretch. I'll be honest. I don't think it's going to happen. But here's the interesting dynamic. Brian Kemp is not a fan of Trump either. I mean, they've had their falling out. But Kemp is probably not going to call the legislature in. Kemp is on record today as saying he does not see the votes there sufficient to even warrant calling them in. However, it appears that Georgia law does not require the governor to do so. if in fact they have a 3/5 majority of the legislature that are willing to come in and sign their names to it. So could they call themselves in? We're going to talk to Mo Brooks about that in detail. I mean, Mo served in the Alabama state legislature as well as Congress. He's seen the machinations of state politics. He knows what goes on. And I'm interested to hear his thoughts on this. I'm also interested in the fact that he's calling this out in a big way, even though he doesn't like Trump, which is what I think makes his commentary more pure, if you will. Because when you don't like the guy, but you're willing to say that's wrong, then you realize that the that's wrong is probably based in truth as opposed to emotion. And yeah, all right, we're going to see with Mo Brooks here in just a few minutes when we get back from that break. I will say this. I am also pleased to look over the text lines and see Rayson from Hawaii texting in. Rayson from Hawaii, we love you, brother. We're so sorry the state of Hawaii has been going through what it has, and I know the island of Maui has really been hit hard. But Rayson, I'm glad that you're doing well. And I know we checked on you earlier, and you said you had some family members in that particular part of the island, so I pray that they're well. But he says, we are a right-side ruffian nation that honors God, family, and our military. Love you all. That's Rayson from Hawaii. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Devin from Brownsboro says the jackassery sound effect for those two. So, yeah, okay. Impeach Mayorkas, impeach Granholm, jackassery. Hit it. Can't do it? Oh, the music started too soon. All right, we'll play it later. Thank you, Devin from Brownsboro, who knows that we got a jackassery sound effect and called for it. Coming right back, former Congressman Mo Brooks on the line with us. We'll have him and talk about what's happening over yonder in Georgia. We'll be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios for hour number 2, local, state, and national. Man, we cover all the issues, and like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. All right, well, we're staying with the same topic, but we're bringing somebody in to discourse with us a little bit about it. Former Congressman Mo Brooks represented the North Alabama area as in Congressional District 5 for a number of years. He has served in the state legislature. He also served as a district attorney in Madison County, and he's got thoughts and opinions on what's going on with this situation with the Trump indictment in Georgia. And so without further ado, let me just bring him on. Congressman Brooks, how you doing, sir?
Doing great, Phil. How about yourself?
I'm good, sir. I'm good. Listen, I mean, I think right out the gate, it's kind of fair to say no love lost between you and Trump right now, but I think that makes your commentary about what's happening in Georgia maybe a little more pure because you don't cotton to the way this indictment came down.
Not at all. It violates the supremacy clause of the United States Constitution, in my judgment, i.e. federal law is supreme to state law. And in the federal law, you've got the United States Constitution with the First Amendment freedom of speech, with all the cases that have interpreted what that means and what it takes to invoke that protection. You've also got in the First Amendment the right to petition your government for redress of your grievances and what all that means, and a number of other things. And quite frankly, it looks like you've got a rogue district attorney in the city of Atlanta who is operating with bad intent for partisan political gain for the Democratic Party.
Yeah, I would heartily agree with that assessment. And I saw yesterday, I think it is, that Mark Meadows, who I know you know personally, he filed a notice of removal to federal court, which I would think would have some merit. I mean, you can notice something to be removed from federal court as a matter of right. The court can choose to hand it back or remand it, but I think these things may wind up being moved out of that jurisdiction anyway. What do you think?
I sure hope so. I do know Mark Meadows personally. He and I, we were founders of the House Freedom Caucus. He was once the chair of the House Freedom Caucus. He was also the White House Chief of Staff. And based on the indictment allegations, this rogue district attorney is bringing Mark Meadows under the cloud of an indictment based on his having followed his boss, President Donald Trump's request for things like setting up a phone call, setting up a meeting. Please listen in and afterwards tell me what you think of what all was said during the conversation or during the meeting. That doesn't cut it. I just don't understand why Fani Willis is this far out of line. But in my judgment, having been a district attorney, having been an assistant district attorney, and also having been on the criminal defense side, she is way off base, and all of this should be tossed out just as soon as a state court judge can get to it. Now, the problem is where it's located.
Yeah.
If you toss it out, you have to never be elected again as a judge in a Democratic county.
Well, that's true. All the more reason to maybe see it removed to federal court where the judges can serve for life for good cause. But truthfully, I don't know which federal district court judge could possibly get it. But the 11th Circuit, where it would appeal to thereafter, is fairly conservative.
It is, and the Supreme Court is moderate to conservative, depending on the issue. Unfortunately, on occasion, it's been quite liberal.
Yeah.
Going all the way back to when Obamacare was approved as a tax increase, of all things. So the Supreme Court kind of floats around. Right now it has a little bit more conservative bent, but I would hope that the federal judges would be aggressive in slapping this district attorney down and putting her back in the place that she is supposed to be, which is obeying the law, obeying the rules of ethics that govern all of us attorneys, and then operate in that kind of capacity. And I should emphasize, too, this is going to be a huge drain on the resources of the district attorney's office in Atlanta, Georgia. And that's resources now that will no longer be available to prosecute murderers, robbers, assaulters, rapists, and other criminals who pose a serious threat. They're going to have a lesser priority because so much of the district attorney's office powers and capabilities are going to be diverted to this partisan litigation involving roughly 20 defendants, one of whom happens to include Donald Trump. And think about it. You're a lawyer. What is the defense? Well, we had legitimate grounds for believing
absolutely
that there was voter fraud going on in the state of Georgia. Now, think about how many hundreds or thousands of witnesses there may be that form the basis for these opinions. How in the world are they going to try that in a week or 2 weeks or a month or 2 months or even a year? And what kind of strain is that going to be on the resources of the Atlanta District Attorney's Office?
And for background, can we not bring Stacey Abrams in and have her give account? And I mean, the reality is under this theory of law, these novel theories of law that are being presented by Fani Willis, Stacey Abrams would have to plead the fifth if she was ever asked about why she still believes that she should be governor of the state of Georgia. The whole thing, as far as I tell you, one more before we go to the next piece of this conversation about the possibility of impeachment. The also thing that bothers me is how Fani Willis has chosen to indict a number of attorneys for simply zealously defending the interests of their client. And when that happens, when you can be tried as an attorney, not for breaking the law, but just for pursuing your client's interests in the manner in which the law allows you to do, that to me is an egregious overreach. And the very idea that she would do this as to her own profession is, to me, is just beyond the pale.
Well, it's just not within the limits of the law. As an attorney, you have a legal duty to zealously represent the interests of your client.
That's right.
So long as you do so in conformity with the law and the code of ethics. And it's a bizarre case. It really is. I've never seen anything like it. I litigated starting in 1978 all the way through 2010. That's over 3 decades of litigation in over 20 different jurisdictions in different states around the United States, plus, of course, in the state of Alabama. And this just doesn't cut the smell test.
No, not at all. Well, listen, one of the other weird aspects of this is, so one member of the Georgia State Senate, by the way, the Georgia legislature is the very first one to have had a state-level freedom caucus. I was there the night that they founded it. But a Georgia state senator has now called upon Governor Kemp to call them into special session for the purposes of examining Fani Willis's behavior and seeing whether or not it rises to the level of impeachment. I did not see that coming, I'll be honest. I don't know that it has the ability to really move forward. But procedurally speaking, it's not something that's so out of the question that it can't be talked about. Your thoughts on that?
The citizenry has all sorts of options for reining in a rogue district attorney. You can file ethics complaints with the state bar to suspend or revoke the attorney's license, in which case no longer can be district attorney if you're not a practicing attorney. You can file all sorts of litigation at state or federal court along the lines of a writ of mandamus and other forms of relief against public officials. You can try to impeach. Now, in Georgia, it requires a majority of the House to impeach an individual, and the Republicans control the Georgia House, and then 2/3 of the Senate to convict. The Republicans have about 59 to 60% to convict. Before any of that can happen, though, you have to have a special session, and in Georgia, the governor can call a special session on his own without any other reason to give, just that he wants to. And this is different from Alabama. The legislature can also call a special session, but to do it, you need 60% of the Senate and 60% of the House to join in that call for the special session. And apparently one Georgia senator may have jumped the gun a little bit.
Yeah.
He sent out a letter that had a signature on it and said, we've got 3/5 of the House and 3/5 of the Senate, and we're calling a special session. And it was a notification to the governor. Well, now it comes out that it might be a sales pitch to try to get the 3/5 in the House and the Senate. Not that he's already got it, even though he's already signed the letter.
Well, I look at it. I think he got out ahead of his skis. I don't think he's not hitting a populist nerve. I mean, I think there are people that would love to see something like that happen, but he's also in the state that just, elected Raphael Warnock of all things. So I don't know that he can get there from here, is what I'm trying to say. But they can do so easier than they can in Alabama, where the governor alone can call the special session. If they really rallied up and leadership wanted to push this, they'd be on the margins of what it takes as Republicans to call this together.
Well, it's kind of iffy right now to engage in any of these actions against the district attorney.
Yeah.
But if, as you and I suspect, these things are tossed out for lack of probable cause or violation of federal law or what have you, or a jury acquits, then you've got the ammo to really hold this district attorney accountable for her rogue conduct.
And I would think that the more appropriate way to do that might even be just going to the Georgia State Bar or the Ethics Commission and see how that goes. But
that's what the Democrats and even a rhino or two have done with me, roughly 40 times. Even though I wasn't licensed to practice law because I was a congressman, but it turns out the state bar still has jurisdiction. Fortunately, the state bar saw through all of these things as just political hatchet jobs, and I was cleared every single time. But that's an example of how removing an elected official's license is a weapon of choice of Democrats, and perhaps Republicans, when there's merit to it, ought to use that same tool.
Well, and that's been the topic that I've covered here in the first part of the show, is what I call fighting back. Because I know that there are constituencies here in the Republican side of things that are just desperate to see somebody stand up and do something. And my point is, you can't take this lightly. You have to build a real case. We don't need to be a Nancy Pelosi-style impeachment process that just throws things together and just sees what sticks. But I do believe that there's a possibility of seeing things like Mayorkas and maybe even Secretary Granholm and who knows, Joe Biden. I don't know that we'll ever get there on this situation in Georgia, but it's certainly a tool in the toolbox.
And the Republican House of Representatives ought to be exercising that power. Unfortunately, they have not shown the chutzpah to do it. And that's one of the reasons why we're getting rolled in Washington on a regular basis. And our victories seem to be stopping the Democrats' advance rather than reversing it. And we need to start reversing some of the bad things that they're doing.
Agree with that. Congressman Mo Brooks, we appreciate your time. Thanks for bringing this to my attention last night late, and now here we are on the radio. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Have a blessed day.
Yes, sir. You too. All right, boom shakalaka. Let's take the break. We'll do that right now. We'll come back and take a few text messages and put a lid on this one. I'm just telling you, man, fighting back, yes, I agree. We got to. We need some. Let's build the cases. Let's do it. Let's do it right. But wow, let's don't be a Nancy Pelosi style. I don't want to be. I don't want to be labeled like that. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Yeah, making it cool to be a conservative. Hey, got to tell you, got several things laid on for next week. Looking pretty good as the week develops. U.S. Senator Katie Britt is scheduled to be on with us on Tuesday. And then we're going to have, I think it's State Senator Garland Gudger is confirmed to be coming in studio, I believe, on Friday. On top of that, we got Wednesday. I will be doing the show from Huntsville and then meeting up with all y'all who want to come out to Terry's Pizza on the Parkway that evening, Wednesday evening. Myself, Dale Jackson, and Yaffe will be doing a panel discussion related to the presidential primary debates for the Republicans. That's all on Wednesday night. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that, too, by the way. Just an opportunity to get out and see some of y'all. I hope you'll show up. It's gonna be a great night, and we're gonna have a watch party. We'll have the thing going up on the screen. We can watch and see how the candidates do. My understanding right now is that Trump is not planning to be a part of the debate. I mean, on the one hand, I get it. On the other, I think you should go. But it would be the Trump show if he went. I mean, it's not like that he was going to wind up. But I guess they just don't want to take any chance of. And truth, let me back up. I'll say this. I think that one of the worst things that Trump did in his last campaign, something that probably hurt his cause, to be honest, was the way he handled the debate with Joe Biden. He just totally lost his cool and went at it. Did Biden deserve it? Yeah, absolutely. But what happened was it lost the sense of the presidential. I mean, he lost the moment. He was seen as the guy who was lashing out, and I think he wound up hurting his cause that way. So the last thing you want to see is Trump come on right now and start lashing out. Of course, if he was there, it would be all the topic about how are you going to handle all your indictments? Will you pardon yourself? And yada yada yada. That it would be. So I get why he's not going to be there. Anyway, that is this next Wednesday at Terry's Pizza on the Parkway. I believe we start at 6. I'll double check that, let you know for sure between now and then. But I'd love to see some of y'all there. In fact, what's really cool, like just earlier, Boomer and I were getting ready for the show. Amy from Rainbow City stopped in. One of our listeners, she won one of our T-shirts, about 4 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's a regular listener to the show. And she happened to be around, and she came by. It was just cool to have people
just hop on in. It was fun to meet her in person.
Which the crazy thing was, we found out you're related.
I know.
like what?
I know.
She said, "Wait a minute, I'm so and so's third cousin." I'm like, "Wait, what? Y'all are anyway." So yeah, Boomer had a cousin come by.
Had a cousin come by. It was awesome.
It was. That's good. All right, we got plenty of stuff here. Let's see if we got any text messages. I'll take them real quick. Missy from Faulkville says, "Is Boomer? See, Boomer, I told you, man. Is Boomer going to be at Terry's?"
I wish.
And she says, does Dale have to be there? I'm not done with the Boomer question yet. We'll work this. We'll work on this.
Yeah. Well, we'll work something out.
We'll see what we can do. John from Huntsville. Boomer, I don't know that we can place orders for sound effects, but I would like 2 orders of jackassery and 2 orders of Camels and a side of fries. Hit me some jackassery when you get a chance there, bud. Yeah, that's all good. Is that Brian on the phone right now?
Yeah.
All right, slap him on there. I got about 30 seconds. Brian from Huntsville. Hey, man, how are you?
Doing okay. Quick question.
Yeah.
There's a Terry's Pizza on Memorial Parkway now, or is this the one over across from Grissom in Bailey Cove?
Oh, shoot. You know what? I will double check, but I thought it said Parkway. I'm going to go find out for you, Brian, and I'll announce it after the break.
I don't think there's one. I think it's the other one. So otherwise, thanks for ruining my diet by making me go out there this Wednesday.
You better be there, man. You better be there. Awesome. All right.
Have a good one. Bye.
See you. Bye. Boomer, do we have time for a jackassery? We got it.
Hee-honk. I'll just do it. There you go.
All right, we're taking a break, and we're coming back with my favorite time of every single week. Boomer McQueen is coming up next, and it's going to be good. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right, covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. I say that with all emphasis. I'm talking about Alabama. I mean, this show, we go like way down south of Birmingham and up north of Huntsville and Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. By the way, I just got, as I'm speaking, I just got the confirmation, apologize for saying Parkway a while ago. It's Terry's Pizza on Bailey Cove, that's my old stomping grounds. I mean, I lived just off Bailey Cove.
I mean, you were about to have a lot of people show up at the other one.
Well, let's don't do that.
Don't do that, guys.
Terry's Pizza on Bailey Cove for the Wednesday night watch party with me and Dale and Yaffe and Mecca Music. We're going to be there doing a panel. And we need y'all to come on out and see us. And I need to see some of your faces. I got voices, I got text messages, and there's faces that go with them.
There are.
And handshakes. All right, there you go. Okay, hey, this is literally my favorite time on the radio every single week. It just is. And we didn't get to do it last week.
We did not.
And we didn't get to do it yesterday on schedule, which upset John from Huntsville.
It did. It upset John from Huntsville.
You are not on.
I'm so sorry.
Hi, McQueen. What's a heck of a thing when daycare says, by the way, you can't come in.
Oh, it really is a thing. And it's really a thing when they let you know at like 6 p.m. the night before.
Wonderful.
Like, that puts a lot of people in a pickle. I wasn't in too much of a pickle. I just
In a
couldn't
pickle?
I just couldn't do Boomer and
Pickle.
McQueen. But some people, it's a big deal.
Yeah. We could spend the whole time talking about that. In
Oh,
the
we could.
meantime,
I
though,
feel very passionate about this.
this is what we call Boomer and McQueen. All right. You know the deal, guys. I spent a time asking y'all questions. We get your thoughts because you got thoughts. And then we flip the gears and you guys ask me questions. So here's the deal. First question. So Vivek Ramaswamy, he's running for president. To me,
Just don't ask me to say that name.
all right, first of all, you have to spell it.
Oh, man.
You'd be in trouble
I'll
on
say
that
it.
one.
You can spell it.
All right, Vivek Ramaswamy, who I think is coming across as one of the sharper intellects within the entire field. He's running for president of the United States, no political experience. He's only 38 years old. Is he too young? I look at these two 38-year-olds. That 38-year-old.
Hey, take that back.
So sorry.
I am now 39, so I'm much wiser.
All right, but is he too young? I mean, you guys picture yourselves suddenly running for president. Is he too young?
Well, that's terrifying. I feel like, well, first of all, he's in better condition to run the country than some of the 80 and 90-year-old people that are wanting to or have say, first of all. Second of all, if you've lived through the last 3 years, I don't care. It's put like 15 years on you, I think. Like, seriously. It's like through COVID and all this, and if as a leader. So, I mean, yes, it's young, and I think the more life you've experienced to an extent is going to be helpful, but I wouldn't, eliminate him or have that be like my number one reason, or a major concern. Like, I wouldn't want to that to take away from if he's the best candidate, regardless of age, just like anyone else. If they're 70 years old, if they're the best candidate, for our country and are gonna, run this nation and be respected by not just Americans but by other countries, then absolutely, that's not too young. So,
Okay,
I think we'll have a lot to see here in the debates.
So you go to the polls. You got the slate of candidates to choose from in the primary. He's on there. I'm taking this you don't find yourself saying, he's too young, I'm not voting for him.
I'm not going to eliminate him because of that. Like,
Okay.
I'm going to go through all, policies and other
right.
things before I go, okay. And then if I'm up to, between two, and that could be a factor at that point, but
Yeah.
I don't initially say he's too young. No.
Boomer.
I would agree.
Okay, next question.
That's not fair.
No, I mean,
I'm just kidding.
For me, I guess I'm not a young voter anymore, but maybe to a young voter, he may seem too young because you look at all the past presidents being a little bit more seasoned.
That's a very diplomatic
nice-
word.
There we go. They look and maybe feel more seasoned to a lot of people because of their life experiences. But being a 39-year-old now and seeing my past experiences, and I know even some people have had way more experiences that have led them in the direction of being a president or a politician, or so that being said, I think exactly what McQueen was saying. If they were all laid out in front of me, I'm not gonna X him out just because of his age.
Okay, all right.
And
then-
actually, not to say you're wrong by any means, but I think also some of the younger voters, though, that wouldn't even be a factor because they're so much younger. I think it's going to be to older voters
maybe
that
to older
are
voters.
going, oh, that guy is
Yeah.
half my age
That
or whatever.
makes more sense.
That's probably a point. All right,
Younger voters won't even
So
know.
before we leave,
Yeah, and they might have more in common, or because his viewpoint as a 38-year-old and what he's gone through, it's going to be different,
Okay. Go on.
Sorry, and I'll be quiet now.
I was going to
I'm just
jump on
stirring the
another
pot.
part of it is, okay, there's many 38, 39-year-old I'm talking about business now,
Right.
but Trump was a business owner.
and
is.
so was Ramaswamy.
There you go. And when Trump got in office, he didn't have any political background, but man, look what he did.
Oh yeah, and I think that's an attractive situation right
Very
now
attractive.
because there's so many people sick of the establishment, the guys who've been there forever.
Mm-hmm.
Dianne Feinstein's 90 years old. She gave power of attorney to her daughter because she can't handle her own affairs, but she won't relinquish her seat in the Senate. All right, so then let me before I leave that question, let me chase that thread one step further. Is there an optimal age? Like if you were to say, when I picture a president, I would like to see an age of
47 to 52.
okay.
Wow.
I will not be running for president in your book
There
then.
you go.
I really don't know.
I actually don't have an age.
Okay.
So I would be one of those people that I don't have an age. I want to see what you are all about and what are you going to do for our country?
Okay.
I was kidding.
No, she wasn't.
I was totally kidding. I just threw
All right.
a 5-year range out
All right. Next
because
question.
Trump does not qualify under that.
Next question. So the biggest song in America right now is "Rich Men North of Richmond."
I was
Rich
hoping
Men
you were going to
North
talk about
of Richmond.
this.
Why is it the biggest song in America? So we all know the story. Oliver Anthony. No one's ever heard of this guy before. He comes out of nowhere, has a viral video, and it is taking off. I mean, like it's the number one most downloaded song in America. It bumped John Rich's "Try That in a Small Town" out of first place. Why?
Jason Aldean's.
I'm sorry, Jason Aldean. Why? Why is it the number one song in America right now?
Okay, I guess I'll go.
Oh, I'm ready. I went first last time.
Man, if you haven't heard it, you need to go hear it first of all.
Yes.
But what it is just so relatable, especially to the blue collar workers / the people that are out there working their tails off.
Yeah.
And then seeing what the government is doing on the backside to them.
Yeah.
And this good old boy just sat down with his guitar. He was in a hard place in his life.
Yeah, he was.
And he honestly wrote the song more so as an outlet for himself. And then on top of that, he wrote what was going on in his personal life. And guess what? That's happening. Just like anything else, especially in scripture, you're not the only one going through situations. And there's a higher power there that's going to be with you no matter what. Sometimes it's better to be to release those things and tell other people. That's why it is so important to be in a community like a small group or a church, so that you are going through certain things with each other. But it's so relatable because people actually heard what he was trying to say.
Yeah, I think is that I'm going off the cuff. Is that 1 Corinthians 10:13? There is no situation you have gone through that is not common to man, and that with every temptation, God will provide the means to escape it and the strength to endure it.
Wow.
But I believe I think that's it. I think it's 1 Corinthians 10:13. But you're right. I think that's a big part because it sings to every man.
Absolutely.
It's a very populist tone right now. Well, your thoughts there, McQueen?
Yeah, I mean, I think I totally agree with that. I think the big thing, like, is people feel heard. with that song. I feel like it makes you feel like I feel heard.
Heard.
And it almost
You saying hurt or heard?
Heard, like
Okay.
HEARD. Like, I mean, it quite literally put a voice to, or gave a voice to what people have been feeling and thinking for the last few years.
Okay.
And I think, oh gosh, we've talked about this a lot lately, like just that we're not stupid, you know, like Americans are not stupid. I mean, the majority are not stupid. And it just like, I don't know, I watched this video yesterday of the song and it shows all these people listening. Like it shows Oliver Anthony playing and it's like on their computers, all these people that are listening and you just see it in their eyes, how hard it hits them. It's them listening to it for the first time.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and it's just like, I mean, I was tearing up. It was just watching it. It was so heartwarming and like just moving as these people are hearing it and going, yeah, like that's what I thought. And it's showing people of all different nationalities and ethnicities and different backgrounds. And everyone is like getting behind this, like, yeah, like that's exactly what we're going through. What is this new world? Like, it's such a shame. And I think it just kind of, I mean, who knows? Maybe this will help pull the country together and a lot of the differences that, you know, and the strife and everything that's been going on just through these simple words and truths.
And you're kind of saying it, but I'll use a word you didn't say, but you were kind of saying it this way. It's bipartisan. Mm-hmm. It's not like this is being sung to Republicans. There's some in the media trying to portray this as a right-wing ballad. It's not.
Oh, it's absolutely
it's a ballad
not.
of the working man is what it is.
Yeah.
It really is. And some people may not know this. I actually just read it today, but I didn't read it from a completely correct source, but it looked like Oliver wrote this out. And what it was talking about, he's like, man, I'm just a good old boy that just was trying to get out of a hard place in my life, and I wanted to express my feelings, and it just caught on because there's so many more people that are going through the same situation that I'm going. I've been already offered contracts. I don't want to play in a stadium. I don't want 6 buses or a jet. I just wanted to get out of a place in my life and express my feelings.
That's cool.
Well, I think you guys nailed it. I think this is every man's song, and I think it's got a message that reaches across party lines and demographic lines, and it's resonating for a reason. All right. There's round 1 of Boomer McQueen. That went fast. It
always does.
Fast.
Oh, are you playing it? Oh,
yeah, buddy.
This makes me cry. It makes me cry. Honestly, it's so good.
All right, we'll listen to it. We'll come right back in round 2. Boomer McQueen. They asked me questions. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back.
Oh, it is living in the new world with an whole soul.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio, solid conservative, just plain right, making common sense a superpower here on Right Side Radio. All right, so I am with two of my favorite people, Boomer and McQueen. We call it the Boomer and McQueen segment. Hit it, buddy. Yeah. All right, this is where we flip the script. I spend the first round asking them questions and getting their thoughts and opinions on stuff that matters. And then we turn around and they ask me a question, and I sit back with bated breath wondering where we're going. So who's asking me a question?
I got it.
You got it.
I'm going to jump in there.
Oh, he's too eager.
Aw,
He's
man.
way too eager.
I'm pretty eager on this one. I saw an article the other day, and it sparked my interest. And so I clicked on it. And what it said, it actually was in Missouri. And some of these Missouri schools are going to a 4-day school week. And then I was like, what is this? And then I looked it up and I saw that nearly 900 school districts are going to a 4-day school week.
Dang.
With that,
Districts, not just schools.
Yeah, so I didn't even know this. And then it also said on the Google, it said that the number rose from 650 districts in 2020. I'm like, I didn't even know there were 4-day, school weeks going on. I knew there were.
It has been going on in that many districts?
That's what it says. And so I can't believe that. So my question to you is, what is going on with these school districts? It does not say in Alabama. So it's not in Alabama, I don't believe.
So let me get this straight.
But there's a lot of questions that revolve around this question.
Okay, that was quite the discourse. So what you're telling me is your question.
There was no drama involved in that whatsoever. Theatrics, I should
but
say.
what I'm hearing you say is there's like 900 districts around the nation that have converted to a 4-day school week?
4-day school week.
Are they, let me ask you this, if you know, are they extending the length of the days, or are they just lopping off 20% of their school year?
So from what I was reading on one of the articles that was the Missouri schools, it didn't say that they were extending the days. It was talking about something about the teachers, because I guess there's a teacher shortage, but I'm like, okay, but they're there to teach for 5 days. So what's going on?
If there's a teacher shortage, they still got to teach the other 4 days.
Exactly. So it said that they were taking Monday off, and then they were going to be going to school Tuesday through Friday. And
my God.
I know. So
are they still getting summers off? Or are they kind of?
Yeah, they're still
turning
getting
into
summers off.
year-round school.
Now, some of those I've heard before are looking at like 4-day school weeks, but less time, like less holiday season. Like summer is like almost non-existent. They take like a 10-day off and they come right back.
That's what
really
you and I
quick.
were just talking about. Where's summer? Come on, give us summer back.
The
I mean,
summer
I
was
get it.
not long
I
enough.
understand, like in my head, as a parent thinking, okay, a full, what they're going to all year round school, it's easier to have the kids in school, blah, 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 blah. But not really. I mean, they need summer.
Is he asking me a question? What's happening?
I'm on a
about
rant
this.
right now. But okay, are they going to start pushing this in every state? And if so, what's going to happen with all the parents that actually have to work with their kids?
So here's my thoughts on this. First of all, that's what I want to know.
Working parents, you mean? Like
Working parents,
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
Working parents, and for that matter, it's not always parents, it's parents. Sometimes it's single parent households. What are they doing for that extra day they're not home with their kids? Because, what I don't want to see them do is drive us to be like France with a 4-day work week and reduce the productivity of the nation. What I also don't want to see is them screwing up the family unit even further by requiring that the parents are now going to wind up in order to keep a roof over your heads. We're going to have to, put a child into a daycare that I wouldn't have put you into before, and then you're going to have to pay for daycare, and there's not going to be any supplement to your income. You just got to find a way to pay for it, and I just look at this and think, it's problematic. Why are we doing it? What's the point? And maybe somebody can explain it to me in ways that make sense, but I think, and I can tell by your tone too, you don't agree with it.
No.
I do not see this as being a good solution. And I'm betting we're going to find too that there's going to be districts going to 4-day work for school weeks. It's going to be awesome. And then grades are going to be even more in the tank.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's so many things that could go wrong, and there's so many working parts that it's just not gonna work.
Yeah, I'm with you, man.
I think
do not
also
like it.
with just how hard it is right now to get good working help and work, like people that will, even just from just simple easy jobs, not easy, but just and people if you've never
jobs,
entry level, that's
yeah.
what I was going for. Thank you. But if you're not even learning like how to have like, I mean, those commitments in elementary school and middle school and high school, like 5 days, working 5 days, putting in 7 or 8, whatever hours in school. If you never even have that foundation, people are never going to hold jobs. You know,
That's true.
like,
That's a great point. I never thought about what it ingrains in the kids. I was just thinking about what's happening with the parents, but you're right. The kids see that as, why don't I get a 3-day weekend my whole life?
yeah.
Because life is not like that.
Yep. I think those are just such valuable lessons. And then that unstructured time too, I think is just, especially when you get older, kids just get into trouble. Or you have your iPad or TV that's teaching the kid.
I would not have been the right one to give a third day to for time off.
I'm sure there's a lot of
All right.
small young whippersnappers that don't need that third day off.
Hey, with maybe a minute left, what do we got? Do we have a stupid story of the week?
We got about 10 seconds left.
Well, daggum.
Oh.
All right.
Well, I did see that in Tennessee they had to like pause football practice because there was a bear on the field.
That's not stupid. That's just scary.
But we only had 10 seconds. I was just sharing a story, and this happened in Tennessee.
Trying to squeeze something in there.
Real quick, yeah.
There's a bear on the field. That's
In the middle of
stupid.
practice.
That's just.
There's a bar. War.
Watch out for that bear. The
All
Harlem
right.
bear.
Love you both. Appreciate you. That's Boomer and McQueen. They got opinions, and they're not afraid to share them. I like it. All right, folks. Coming right back, Stephanie Smith, president of the Alabama Policy Institute. We're going to get down on some issues related to gambling in the state of Alabama. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening live to Rightside Radio with Phil Williams. It's hard to go wrong when you're on the right side. Rightside Radio. Solid, conservative, and just plain right.
Alabama's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside Studios, hour number 3 on a Friday afternoon. Local, state, and national, man. We cover down all the issues. And like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. All right, so here's the deal. We have done one dipper. We called it Fighting Back. We talked about impeachments, what impeachments mean, what they entail. Oh, by the way, what impeachments could we foresee happening, and what's going on with this possibility of impeachment in Georgia. We had Mo Brooks on, and we discussed it. The next thing I had planned on having was a dipper called Magic Bus, and we're not going to get there yet because I'm having to skip forward right now to number 3. I'm calling it Rolling the Dice. Rolling the Dice. So gambling, whoo, the history of gambling in Alabama. I don't care how you feel about casinos. Set that aside for a second. There has been a jackleg attempt by the legislature multiple times to just do things to benefit some bad actors. Even if you like gambling, which I'm not a fan, even if you like gambling, the fact that we've had the same sorry individuals jimmying up our systems and infiltrating and debasing our politics has been going on for way too long. Someone who has seen it a lot because of her time working in policy, working in state government, is our friend Stephanie Smith, president of the Alabama Policy Institute. And API, by the way, has been at the forefront for many, many years on the issue of gambling in Alabama and the corruption that it brings. Stephanie Smith's on the phone right now. My friend Stephanie Smith, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Phil. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, listen, it's coming. I mean, they say it's coming. You can smell it coming. Once again, the same old is going to attempt to bring itself to the forefront and get casinos, and the same bad actors who don't pay their taxes and violate our current laws are going to want a piece of the pie. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's pretty well confirmed at this point that there'll be gambling legislation in 2024. There were these ad hoc committees in the House that were formed to study gambling and the expansion of gambling, and those have been meeting. I know they met once a week during the legislative session. I don't know how often they've met in the off season, but I do know that they have been meeting. There's a Republican ad hoc committee and a Democrat ad hoc committee, and the theory was that really the problem with passing legislation on gambling in the state of Alabama was that, the Democrats and the Republicans couldn't agree. I would take a step back from that, in the first place and say that, for the most part, Republicans shouldn't be agreeing on the expansion of gambling at all because it's an expansion of state government and bureaucracy.
Yep.
And if you're truly a limited government Republican, then you should be against gambling, even if you're for gambling, because what you shouldn't want is the government picking winners and losers, and you shouldn't want an expansion of the state budget, and you shouldn't want an expansion of the state bureaucracy. So regardless of how you feel about Las Vegas or casinos or even, a scratch-off ticket when you're on vacation in Florida, the expansion of gambling in the state of Alabama expands state government.
It absolutely does. And, just to back up what she's saying there, just like we just saw, and I've talked about it at length recently, marijuana. Everybody needed medical marijuana. Got to have medical marijuana. What do we have? We have the Cannabis Commission, which has now got all kinds of rights and privileges, and it's growing. It has no cap on its size of its staffing, and its taxation, and its violation of civil liberties. It's a big, huge chunk of government. But we got the cannabis. Wow. But we got a huge chunk of what I would call non-Republican-oriented governance. And the same thing's going to happen here. You're going to wind up having a gambling commission. You're going to wind up having its own enforcement officers. It's going to be problematic, and it's going to be regulatory, which means that even though a casino is a casino, it's still a private enterprise. The last thing you want is to have to create more regulatory burdens, but they will. And you're right. I think that's one of the things that people forget has to happen the way this thing works.
Yeah, and that's even just with the state lottery specifically. You know, a lot of people will say, okay, well, I'm not for casinos or I'm not for sports betting, but why don't we just have a lottery? Well, just having a lottery necessitates having that entire bureaucratic apparatus set up, just like the Cannabis Commission.
Yeah.
And just like the Cannabis Commission, it will be rife with corruption. You know, Alabama has historically been, you know, one of the more politically corrupt states in the nation. And why would we want to invite more of that into our political system? So, you know, you have a situation to where there are current operators that are currently breaking the law that are not being held to account on enforceability. And then all of the bills in recent history have done nothing but reward those lawbreakers by giving them a monopoly over gambling over the expansion of gambling in our state. So we're not talking about a free market. We're not talking about something that government is getting out of. We're talking about something that government is entering into and then attempting to wrangle. But the one of the things that nobody wants to talk about, but it's pretty clear when you look at the data from other states where gambling is legal, that it actually increases illegal gambling as well.
Wow. There's a stat. I tell you what.
Yeah, and the reason it
Go
does
ahead.
that is because the legal gambling operations are being curtailed and regulated and taxed by the state. Well, what's going to stop the creation or the perpetuation of a black market that's not taxed when something is legal?
Well, and you can already hear, too, the way they're going to sell this. I mean, they're going to wind up having some way of saying, it's for the children. We'll fund education with it. We'll be able to do grants for schools. We'll be able to build things that our children need. And it's such a a crappy argument, but people buy it, and that's what's so frustrating. And they'll get
they do.
The teachers union will get all of their membership to line up at the polls and tell them, you do this and you'll all get raises. I mean, it's really been sick the way they've twisted this in the past, and I foresee them doing that again.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. And it's disingenuous. They always throw something in there about it's for the children. That last iteration that came through barely had anything about education at all. But it did, make mention of it so that they could say it was, an education lottery or, something for the children. But, the brass tacks on education funding is that education funding has increased by almost 50% in the last 10 years.
Yep.
And the last thing that we need is to be throwing more money at a failed system.
Oh, yeah. Preach. There's a whole nother montage we can do on that one.
Yeah, we definitely did.
Hey, let me ask you this. Sticking with the gambling theme, I took issue with something yesterday, and I'm going to be reaching out to Representative Andy Witt, giving him an opportunity to come on the show if he wants to. But there's a story that came out on AL Daily News. Alabama Daily News has this piece 4 days ago. And Representative Witt says that he recently went around to at least a dozen illegal gambling sites himself, which I find to be rather interesting, that a state official is just traveling around touring illegal sites. But then he also says, and we heard this from Governor Ivey, it's to me, I'm going to go ahead and just poison the well with my commentary and say, I find this to be one of the least attractive, lack of leadership type comments that, well, this is illegal activity and it's happening anyway, so we might as well regulate it so we can tax it. And I'm thinking, you could say that about prostitution. But,
absolutely.
But
I take it a step further and say sex trafficking is happening in the state.
There you go.
And so, even child sex trafficking, child abuse is happening in the state. If there was some way to tax and regulate that, would do that? And if not, where is the line?
Yep.
Because we know that gambling brings those negative societal impacts wherever gambling goes. And so you're bringing those negative things in when you tax and regulate it, but you're not helping people on the other side. And I agree with you. I mean, if we've got state officials, Representative Witt or any other state officials that are not in law enforcement, but have a list of places that are breaking the law, and instead of giving that over to law enforcement and the correct authorities, they're going around and interviewing these folks or documenting it themselves. I'm not sure that that's the right form of leadership that we need in this. Now, I do think that the reason behind that kind of attitude is they're trying to make this argument of it's happening everywhere, so we've got to choose these special 8 people to have the monopoly so that the other people, that are doing this, basically money laundering and gambling operations behind a thrift store, I think you said, or something like that those things will stop. But the problem is, in every other state, where gambling is legal, those actually increase rather than decrease, because the people who are law then that are paying the taxes and participating in the regulation then have that certain market. But then there's also still this black market of cheaters.
Yep.
And so what ends up happening is that the government picks winners and losers, but then the cheaters still are cheating. So it's about like gun laws. There's a sign there that says don't bring a gun, but if you're not legally minded and you really don't care what the authority has to say, you don't care.
Yeah.
You're still going to carry a gun in there.
Yeah, you nailed it. Well, listen, I tell you what, we're up against a break right now. You want to hold on during the break? We can.
Sure, absolutely.
All right, let's come back from this break and talk about, all right, where's it going? What do we see happening? What kind of legislation do we imagine they might propose? And then what should people be thinking about that legislation? All right?
Sounds good.
All right, there's that. We're with Stephanie Smith, president of the Alabama Policy Institute, talking about gambling rearing its ugly head once again in our state legislature. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right, making common sense a superpower. That's right. Hey, Stephanie Smith from Alabama Policy, president of the Alabama Policy Institute, is on with us. Hey, Stephanie, before we start going again, I got to tell you, one of my listeners, Don from Cairo, Alabama, just texted in and said, with regards to gambling, said, let's put Don Siegelman in charge of all the gambling. He'll take care of everything.
What a great idea.
I told Bummer you laugh. Didn't I say that? She laughed. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Well, listen, so real quick, as we get into the actual policy side of this, I mean, sometimes policy is fighting the bad legislation. Sometimes policy is, pushing for it. The interesting thing is we have these sort of ad hoc committees that are meeting. And are they actually drafting legislation, or are they just sitting around talking, or maybe going and trying out the craps tables? What are they doing?
Yeah, my understanding is that during the legislative session, it was a lot of discussion, and now they are drafting legislation. Okay.
I think the things that are on the table, and I hate to even say it that way, it's like a pun, but the things that are on the table right now are a compact with the Porch Creek Indians to allow them to expand their current operations. The expansion of, what is it, Class 5 gaming? Is that what I'm looking for? Anyway, casino gaming in the state of Alabama. And they and then at the same time, then there's the lottery. And they had an omnibus bill last time that was the most awful piece of legislation I've ever seen, trying to give monopolies and designate where in the state you were allowed to build. It was just crazy.
Right.
What do you see?
Yeah,
coming?
the last several bills have been kind of that big omnibus bill that really, once you read through them, you're like, wow, you can't even really make this up, because it included some wonderful extras like the police have no jurisdiction on casino land. They have their own. They have their own law enforcement, and so they're in charge of their, regulating themselves as far as law enforcement goes.
That's
going to
go
that.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's not a safety problem at all. But also, it's one of those, they just kind of carved out exactly what they wanted. And frankly, the reason that those, the last two iterations of that bill failed were not because they were bad pieces of legislation, though that's why I was personally against them and API has been against them. It was that the people that were left off of the monopoly list got so angry that they killed it themselves.
Oh, yeah.
And so it wasn't that people that were against gambling killed them, though we did work on that. It was that, people who wanted a piece of the pie didn't get a big enough piece of the pie, and so they're waiting for the bigger piece of the pie.
Yep.
And so I imagine it's going to be pretty difficult to have a piece of legislation that everyone agrees to enough to get enough votes without it being the omnibus legislation. I mean, the folks that are currently running, illegal operations are not going to allow a, quote, straight lottery bill, and it's debatable whether or not that's even possible.
Right.
But a straight lottery bill to see the light of day, because once a straight lottery bill passes and goes before the people, then there's really no chance of an expansion of casino gambling, because if you look at the stats, and I haven't seen any current data on this, polling on this, but most people think that if a straight lottery came before the people in a vote, it would pass. But if casinos came before the people in a vote, it would fail. So they lump them together. And then we've got the third piece of this, which now is something completely not new, but the technology behind it is new, which is sports betting.
Oh, yeah.
And
thank you.
In North Carolina, they have been fighting an expansion of casinos. They've been fighting sports betting. And what you said earlier about the Cannabis Commission and a gambling commission is exactly what has just happened in North Carolina, where they had a very limited Indian-based casino situation that they allowed to expand, and then now the Gambling Commission has voted to allow full sports betting in the entire state of North Carolina, unfettered.
And didn't we just lose a baseball coach at University of Alabama for this? I mean,
I believe we did. And Coach Saban had Pete Rose in to talk to the team a week or so ago to talk about the dangers of gambling.
Oh, okay.
So I guess we know where Nick Saban falls on, not that I speak for him, but I guess we know where he falls on the subject of sports betting.
Well, it just, you know what? We'll wait and see. But here's the bottom line. You mentioned it earlier, and I've said it on my show multiple times. The bad actors who have been breaking our laws for years, because the idea that gambling's out there and it's happening, we need to regulate it. We can regulate it now. We have laws in place. We don't have to build up government and have more of it. We can enforce the current laws, and wow, look what could happen. But the truth is, the bad actors who have been in this state breaking our laws for years are also the same ones who keep providing the language they want written into the law to benefit them later. And it's a negative cycle. We'll see what happens, but we'll be in the fight with you.
It is, and it's one of those things that people like us just see and understand that it's bad for the state, and we're going to be against it no matter what.
All right, Stephanie Smith, president of the Alabama Policy Institute. Tell them where they can find you if they want to know more about your work.
You can find us on all the social media accounts and at alabamapolicy.org.
All right, my friend. We'll talk again soon, all right?
Thanks, Phil.
All right, there you have it. Man, I tell you what, we'll come back and take a bunch of text messages, a bunch of them. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. You guys stay tuned. We will be right back. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the northern half of the most beautiful state in the nation. Nobody argue with me. It is. It's the most beautiful state in the nation, Alabama. I'm talking about we send our signal like way down south of Birmingham and up north of Huntsville, Tuscaloosa, back to Gadsden, parts of Georgia, Tennessee, and even Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. Hey, I'll tell you who else covers a lot of ground now is Southern Immediate Care. Southern Immediate Care is a chain of medical clinics that cover a lot of North Alabama. They got them in places like Gadsden, Anniston, Atala. They got 5 locations in the Birmingham area. Folks, and by the way, this is who I use. I use the one in the Gadsden area, Southern Immediate Care. If you need them, they're open 7 days a week. Most of their locations have extended hours. They see all ages. We're talking like pediatric to geriatric. Southern Immediate Care. Every time I've been there, it's clean, great staff, quick service, walk-ins are okay. So yeah, just do me a favor. If you need something, medically speaking, if you need something, like you wake up on a Saturday and little guy's got a fever, Saturday's okay. Southern Immediate Care. Look at the websites, find the location nearest you. 2 newest ones are in Chelsea and Hoover. But yeah, Southern Immediate Care, and tell them you heard about it on Rightside Radio. All right, let me go to the phones real quick. Is that Jeffro? Jeff from Indiana. Hey, brother, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man.
Good.
Friday.
You on the road or you already back at the house?
I just got back into Tennessee, so I've been waiting down there for a trailer.
All right. Well, good deal.
Finally came.
What's on your mind?
Hey, who's in charge with investigating all this corruption anyway? Is the Attorney General? Wouldn't he send out the state police investigators and the state police to check on how much money's going under the table for all these local law enforcement to leave all these illegal gambling establishments alone?
Well, he has. In fact, I've got an article right here I didn't even get to. The Attorney General raided Victoryland. He raided a number of others, and he's been shutting them down in several places. The state Supreme Court just came back recently and told 2 counties that their bingo operations didn't qualify either. And it wasn't, by the way, it wasn't like the old school, draw a number and call it out for your card. It was like slot machine bingo.
Yeah.
But yeah, he is. I'm a little curious about why legislators are visiting illegal sites and not saying anything about it.
Yeah, with that many, apparently, if they got big neon signs over them, say "Come on in and gamble" or whatever. I mean, there has to be advertising. I mean, come on.
I know. I mean, either that or who's his tour guide? I mean, how do they know where to go? Who does he know? But I'll give him a call and find out. I mean, he's a great guy. Andy Witt's a good guy. But I'm really curious as to how he's visiting a dozen illegal gambling sites with bingo machines and just talking about it like it was like going to McDonald's.
But with this widespread and established that nobody bothers these places, there's got to be a lot of corruption. There's money going around the table.
Oh, yeah.
People getting paid off.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's what needs to be investigated, and they need to put the hammer down to these people, because if they can take a bribe for this, they'll take a bribe for anything.
Well, listen, I mean, there's a lot that's been said about Jefferson County. That's one of my biggest listening areas, Jefferson County, where Birmingham is. And I believe, and I hate to speak out of school, but I believe it's the Jefferson County sheriff who said that he does not intend to use his precious assets chasing down illegal gaming. But yet, we've also heard that he has a family member who runs illegal gaming. And so you look at it and go, come on. I hope that's not true. I may have just gotten out ahead of a story, but I'm almost positive he did openly say he would not be pursuing the enforcement of the laws on gaming.
And how can you get rid of a sheriff in Alabama? It's almost pretty much impossible, isn't it?
It is. I mean, they can be removed, and they can be impeached, and they can also be indicted. But yeah, you're right. And the other is they can be voted out, but because the sheriffs in Alabama are elected officials. But anyway.
And also on this prosecutor in Georgia, why don't somebody just charge her with election interfering? I mean, she's been charging everybody with breathing on the Trump team and everything. Like you say, with the lawyers and everything. I mean, as far as I can tell, it's election interference. Just go ahead and have somebody have the guts to charge her with it and make her squirm a little bit.
Or how about this? Just go ahead and indict 84 million people while you're at it. That's how many people were, were for the situation that Trump was just questioning. All right, Jeff, be careful on the road, brother. We'll talk to you again first of the week.
Have a good one, Phil. You have a good weekend.
You too, man. Man, I got a ton of text messages, so we got to touch on some of these. Which one was it you told me to take a look at, Boomer?
Sam from Anderson.
Sam
from Anderson.
Do you see it? Am I looking right at it? I
It's down a little bit.
I got it.
because They
I
kept
see,
coming in.
He's brand new. Oh yeah, he's new in the text line. Sam from Anderson, Alabama. We're glad you're in the text line with us. Oh, this is talking about the song "Rich Men from Richmond," north of Richmond.
Yeah.
All right. He says, "Hey Phil, Boom, and McQueen. Just wanted to say, big fan of the show. And on Rich Men north of Richmond, as a blue collar worker, this song is great. Every time I hear it, it makes the hair stand up on my neck. Brings so much raw emotion and passion. We can all relate to it, and I'm glad he voiced it. Just hope they don't cancel him because we need this song, and I hope someone plays it for Biden while he drinks his juice box." Sam, you text in anytime, brother. And also, I love the fact that Louis from Arab heard us talking about it, and I think you said during Boomer McQueen, you said, if you haven't heard it, you need to go hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he did.
Way to go.
Yeah. He just says, I just went and listened to Rich Men north of Richmond. Love this. So there's that.
Well, John over here from Huntsville doesn't like it.
John doesn't like it?
No. He says, may get some discounted points, but I don't like the song. I don't like his voice.
John, are we going to have to start grading you? that may happen. Looking back on some old texts that I didn't get earlier, Parts Guy from Albertville, he says, remember the segment on Show Me the Money? We should be looking for a money trail from these corrupt DAs back to Soros or special interest groups. Do you think? I mean, by the way, some of these DAs that are so liberal on enforcement of criminal laws were funded by Soros in their campaigns. Jimmy from Delrose, Tennessee, says, I think y'all need to change the sound of the jackassery to Biden just saying, come on, man. I don't know if I want to do that, though. Pegleg Dave from Gurley, Alabama says, hey, guys, what time Wednesday at Terry's? I just walked in on this. So my recollection, in fact, hang on a second. I got a text from Dale Jackson. Let's see if I got the time on there. But I do know we're going to be Wednesday evening at, well, he doesn't say, but I think it's Wednesday at 6, if I'm not mistaken, at Terry's Pizza on Bailey Cove Road in Huntsville. It's myself, Yaffe, Dale Jackson. Mecca Music is going to be the MC and the moderator of Dale and Yaffe and I doing a panel discussion on the Republican primary debate, which we're going to have on the screens as a watch party, and eating some Terry's Pizza. So y'all make time on Wednesday next week for that. I'm looking forward to it. Butch from Athens, apparently I was destroying Ramaswamy's first name. He's insisting it's pronounced Vivek, like in cake. So Vivek. I got news. All his life, he's probably had people mispronounce his name. All his life.
All his life.
Yes. Ramaswamy. I mean, how do you I'm just saying, he's all his life. Ron from Huntsville, presidential age limit should be 80. If one is older than 70, they should have cognitive and psychological testing. That's Ron from Huntsville saying that. Okay. All right. In fact, I think one of our presidential candidates, it may have been Nikki Haley, said something like that too. Tyler from Huntsville. It's a shame when the media turns a song about the average person into a political propaganda. Everyone, all caps, should feel like that song. But the media is turning it into a right-wing anthem. I know, man. It's amazing. But like I said during Boomer McQueen, it's really not. It's the everyman's anthem. It just is. Ryan from Hazel Green. He texted in and said, that song scares the crap out of the rich men north of Richmond. Its popularity tells them the majority of the country is fed up. So they label it the right-wing anthem in an attempt to diminish its meaning. But most important, its popularity confirms that there are more of us than there are of them. There it is, right there. What the lovely Charlene says every time, there's more of us than there are of them. And she's right. And so is Ryan from Hazel Green. What else I got? I got a few more here before the break. Mike from Athens. We need to expand our DHR system big time to help the low and poor income people. DHR is so overwhelmed, nothing gets done. I'll be honest with you. I have had, as an attorney, the opportunity to interact with DHR. And I'm sure there's times when it's frustrating. But there's some amazing people that do some amazing work in there. And they are overworked, I will say that. Which is unfortunate because if they're overworked, then it's not good for the state. Mike from Muscle Shoals. It seems like the politicians who say gun laws don't control gun usage because gun because criminals don't follow the law are the same ones saying we need gambling laws to regulate and control it. Okay, you're not wrong. Chris from Gadsden says they don't talk about visiting illegal sites because it's illegal. Well, I guess he's going to my question as to why aren't they reporting it? Because they don't. Well, he did, Chris. I read it in an article, brother. It was in Alabama Daily News. So how about that? What do we got here? Another new texter. Didn't give us a name and location, but I'll come back to it in a moment. JT from Lacey Springs says, Phil, Boomer, what a great week. No child advice today. Hope you all have a great weekend, and Alabama's the best college football team ever. Take me to a break on that one. While I recover from JT from Lacey Springs, continuing to slip in his ad hominem attacks on college football. War Eagle, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. You guys stay tuned. We'll come right back and wrap the week. And we are back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. About to take it to the house here on a Friday afternoon. Got several text messages I'll jump on real quick and wrap those up. Wes from Huntsville, every time Biden opens his mouth is a gamble to see if it's coherent. Maybe Obama should ban him from us having to hear from him. Jeff from Indiana said a little tidbit about Indiana laws. The only person in the county who can arrest the sheriff is the county coroner. That's odd. The county coroner. Good luck with that there, Mr. Coroner. Roughly Ann from Huntsville. Roughly Ann says, great week, guys. Isn't it funny that Hillary is the name of the hurricane headed to California? Yes. And I just tweeted out something. I mean, it's a Category 4, so I don't want to underestimate this thing, but I just put something on my Twitter feed that is pretty hilarious. Bill from Huntsville. Bill from Huntsville says, Phil, talking about the 84 million people who are all for this jackassery, I can just see the largest RICO corruption case in the history of the world. We'll see, man. Why not? They can indict a ham sandwich. They can just go ahead and indict the rest of the voters of Trump. Brandon from Athens just wanted to text in and say, all three of us get an A+. Roll Tide roll. That's Brandy from Athens couldn't resist either. She says, roll Tide, Phil. Have a great weekend. It's going to be a long season, I can already tell. We'll see, man. I'm looking to see what Hugh Freeze does. I mean, it's going to be interesting down in the plains to see.
It will. It's going to be a good season. Oh, and by the way,
yeah.
I am looking into potentially doing a college pick'em, a right side ruffian college pick'em, which means you basically every week comes out with all the new schedules, and it picks all these teams, like between 10 to 20 teams, and you get to go through and pick the teams you think are going to win, and then it kind of keeps track of everybody all the way through the season.
You did a great job on the March Madness thing that we had.
So I'm looking into that. So maybe next week we'll have some information on that.
All right.
I think that'd be kind of fun.
But not sports betting.
No, we're not sports betting here. This is just for fun.
Phil talked all about anti-gambling, and then he had a sports betting thing on his show. No, that didn't happen.
Right.
Matt from Athens says, did you all get to Vivek Ramaswamy's 10 Rules? I did not, but I saw them earlier, and they're pretty amazing. It's worth taking a look at. John from Huntsville. Phil, you made a lot of mistakes today. That's how he leads off.
He leads off
with Phil. You made a lot of mistakes today, but your awesome monologue was enough to get you a B+. A B+?
B+. I can't wait to see his actual grading system.
Oh, my gosh. I think it's pretty arbitrary. How about that? Boomer, your performance today was just okay, so you get an A-.
Oh, man.
McQueen, your performance today was also just okay, so you get an A-. Which means that Mo Brooks is today's winner at A++.
Well,
congratulations, by the way. I might show up at the Debate Watch events, as I definitely know where the Bailey Cove Terry's Pizza is located. Come on, John. Let's do it, man. And we'll grade your pizza eating. That'll be great. I'd love to meet you in person. Butch from Athens, he says, hey, don't be doing those macro aggression thingies. Was you guilty of? I don't know what he's telling me. I do not know what he's saying to me right now, but okay. Something to do with Kamala? I don't know. Anyway, okay. Thanks, Butch. Brandy from Athens just says, great idea, Boomer. She likes the idea of pick'em.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I love it. I love pick'em and I love fantasy.
And then Brian from Huntsville also agrees. He says, college football bragging rights, love it, Boomer. So
yeah.
I think you're in, man.
All right.
Get her done.
I'll work it out.
Hey, real quick, here's a mini dipper that will last all of 2 minutes.
Okay, let's do it.
It's a real story, though. No kidding. The guy who shut down your business and gave out orders about wearing masks, the state health officer, Scott Harris. We are one of the only states in the nation where he is not either appointed by the governor and confirmed by the legislature or elected. Our state health officer is actually appointed by the medical association. He is accountable to no one. Story just broke on 1819 News. After all that is said and done after COVID, our state health officer, Scott Harris, just got a salary increase of 7%. He is now being paid $328,000 of tax dollars a year. $328,000 a year. And he's accountable to nobody. We can't impeach him. We can't remove him from office. We can't do nothing. And he can keep making decrees that clearly impact people's lives with zero accountability to the people. I find that to be egregious, and I'm just going to tell you right now, I plan on doing more on the show about this one because that's next level. That's the Fauci of Alabama right there. I know I said it. I went there.
I'm giving you a snarl.
I may just lost points with John from Huntsville on that. All right, listen, we got an amazing week laid on next week. Don't forget, coming up on Tuesday, I know for a fact, we're looking at U.S. Senator Katie Britt being on the show. Wednesday, aside from the usual events like Grand Council and that kind of thing, on Wednesday, I will be in Huntsville with Dale Jackson and Yaffe at Terry's Pizza on Bailey Cove at, I believe, 6 p.m., and that's going to be a watch party for the Republican primary debate, followed by, or along with, a panel discussion by Dale, Yaffe, and myself. And I'm looking forward to meeting a bunch of y'all there. Come on in, get some pizza, hang out, let's talk politics. And I like seeing people in person anyway. That's just cool. And then Friday, right now, we're scheduled to have one of our state senators in the studio with us, State Senator Garland Gudger from over in the Coleman area. By the way, he has a very cool business. And I know this for a fact because when we built our house years ago, we went there and bought some stuff. It's one of those architectural salvage businesses.
Really?
Yeah, it's called Southern Accents. He's actually been on
American Pickers?
American Pickers.
No way. Really? I love that show.
I actually was watching American Pickers one day, and I realized he was wearing a Southern Accents T-shirt. And I texted Garland Gudger, and I said, "Hey, I just watched Mike from American Pickers wearing your shirt." He goes, "Yeah, we're friends. We did picking together."
Yeah, we did some picking.
But they do. They go out and they do some major picking. We have some stained glass in our house from there. It's just a cool place.
That's awesome.
I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're building something. The newel post for our staircase came from there. It's like 130 or 140 years old.
Wow.
It's just cool. Just very cool. But we'll have Garland Gudger on Friday. All right, you guys, listen, y'all are the amazing audience, and you're the reason why we do this. And I hope you have a blessed weekend. And remember, this show, we stand for the mission and the message. And the mission is that every single day, I want you to get the 4 E's, that we educate, enlighten, empower, entertain you on what it means to be a conservative in today's world. But that's the mission. The message is what drives it. And the message is, every single day, I hope you know that this show stands for the fact that Jesus is Lord, America's great, Alabama's beautiful, and life is worth living. And what a great way to end the week on that. You guys, we'll see you Monday. Have a good one.